It is time for Knicks versus Heat. It feels like the 90s, but it's 2023. Let's talk about this series. Well. Welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watt2K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. If you enjoy what you're watching and you're brand new, welcome aboard. Please like and subscribe. If you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate your support. So, Knicks versus Heat tips off Sunday, 1 p.m. ABC inside the Mecca, the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. Who would have thought at the beginning of the season we would see the Knicks versus the Miami Heat in the second round of the NBA playoffs? I certainly didn't. It's going to be huge. So the Knicks have a 3-1 regular season series advantage, which means nothing at this point. The Knicks finished 47-35. The Heat 44-38. The Heat are the first team ever to win an actual best-of-7 series, who previously played in the play-in round. Now, what I'm going to do here is go through 5 main keys to this series, and then I'm going to give you my series predictions. So one is Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks head coach. You've got 2 great coaches in this series in my mind, Tom Thibodeau and Ericspoelstra. Now, there is a lot of history with Tom Thibodeau and the Miami Heat star player Jimmy Butler. Thibodeau had him in Chicago. Thibodeau had him in Minnesota. And it is widely known that Butler did not want to play for Tom Thibodeau. Thibodeau arrived to one of the absolute doormat franchises of the NBA in the Minnesota Timberwolves. Took him from nothing to the playoffs in one season. Next season, Butler basically checks out, says, I don't want to play for this guy. And he basically dogs it the rest of the season, and Thibodeau's gone. And not too long after that, he became the head coach of the Knicks. So there is no love lost between Tom Thibodeau and Jimmy Butler. So one of the big things for me is Thibodeau, what is his focus going to be in this series? Is it going to be about stopping Jimmy Butler, or is it going to be about stopping the Miami Heat? I hope that personal feelings don't get in the way of the actual series, if that makes sense. So that's key number 1. Now, key number 2 is also about Jimmy Butler. If I'm Tom Thibodeau, what I'm doing is I'm playing Josh Hart. I'm starting Josh Hart, and I'm letting him go head-to-head with Butler. Now, Quentin Grimes has been the starter for the Knicks until he hurt his shoulder. Last I heard, he is questionable for Game 1. And Grimes is a very good defensive guard. But the way that Hart has been playing ever since he came to the Knicks from the Portland Trail Blazers, it makes all the sense to me to put their best, really, defender on maybe right now the best offensive player in the NBA. You can absolutely make that case right now that Butler is as good a player as there is. So in 4 games against the Knicks this season, Butler averaged 22.5 points, 6.3 assists, 4.8 rebounds on 49% shooting. Pretty good. Almost shooting 50%. Shooting 83% at the free throw line. Here's the real key. If you're you have to defend Butler aggressively, but you can't foul him because he is very good at the free throw line. No player in the 2023 postseason has attempted more free throws per game than Jimmy Butler, with 9.8. So I think there's going to be a number of guys trying to defend him. I expect Hart to be first. Quentin Grimes, when he plays back, I would expect more Deuce McBride in this series than what we saw in the first round against Cleveland, because McBride is a very good defensive guard as well. So key number 3 for me in this series is Julius Randle's availability, but especially his mobility. So Randle re-sprained his left ankle late in the second quarter of Game 5 against Cleveland this past Wednesday night. He didn't have a good series against the Cavaliers. It's been his second straight subpar playoff series with the Knicks. He shot 34%, just 14 for 31 in the paint. From three-point range, not much better, just 8 connected out of 34 attempts. I know he was turning it on a little bit, towards in the second quarter of Game 5 before he went out. But the truth is, the Knicks were playing better without him on the floor than they were with him on the floor. If you go by points per 100 possessions, it's like one of the big stats now. The Knicks were plus 13.2 points better, all right, per 100 possessions. And then when he was on the floor, they were just plus .07. So basically the Knicks were 12.5 points better without him on the floor than they were with him on the floor, if that makes sense. And, if he is still hurt, his lack of defense, that could hurt them in the series too. So Obitoppin has shown some really good bursts. He's at his best in transition. He's limited in what he does well, but he does do those things well. He plays very good transition offense, and he can definitely shoot from the corner. I don't know how he shoots well from the corner, because that was always my least favorite place to shoot from, but he does do it well. Okay, so that is number 3. Now, number 4 is going to be the bench play. This is going to be interesting. The Knicks had a top 5 bench in the regular season when bench minutes were a struggle for the Heat. Now, the Heat have been taking a hit. They lost their sharpshooter, Tyler Hero. They lost Victor Oladipo, both of which are big losses. But Miami's bench dominated Milwaukee in the first round. Everyone's going to talk about Jimmy Butler, but don't overlook the Miami bench here. CalebMartin really did a lot. He was good. He played about 100. He played 133 minutes. You've also got Kylelowry at the point. You've got codyzeller as well. Now, with both coaches having a few reserves that they can trust, jalenbrunson, he averaged 37.6 minutes per game. That was the most of any player between these two teams, okay? So Brunson played the most at just under 38 minutes. So there'll be a lot of minutes available to the subs. The Knicks absolutely schooled Cleveland's bench in the last series. Let's see what they do against Miami. And I also want to talk about rebounding. That, to me, was the biggest difference in the first round. The Knicks schooled Cleveland when it came to rebounding. They grabbed 39.4% of available offensive rebounds, the highest rate for any team in any series in 9 years. And to me, if you go back to the old teams, you go back to the Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls, all those championship teams from years gone by, they always, and the Spurs too, they rebounded offensively. They were able to do that. And that makes up, when you don't have the best shooting going on, offensive rebounds can make the difference. And the Knicks have the best one in the world, in my mind, in number 23, Mitchell-Robinson. Now, as far as Miami goes, they have a pretty small front line with Bam Adebayo and Kevin Love as well. They play a lot of zone, all right? That is the way that they like to play. But they do rebound pretty well. Okay, they ranked 4th in defensive rebounding percentage in the regular season and 7th versus the Knicks. So the offensive rebounding, that's something the Knicks still need to do well. Even though they've got the size advantage, Miami is coached very well by Spoelstra, and they seem to be in the right position to get those rebounds. That's something to watch for. But actually, you know what? I want to talk about Mitchell-Robinson a little more. I want to sing his praises a little bit, but I do want to talk about how he played versus Miami. Okay, so on average, Robinson has played about 36 minutes per game. Okay, so against Miami, he played 77 minutes, had 9 offensive boards. That's about 4.2 rebounds per game, per 36 minutes that Robinson actually plays. Okay, if you look at what he did in the first round, he played 141 minutes. He had 29 offensive rebounds. That's about 7.4 rebounds per 36 minutes. A very drastic difference. So let's see what Robinson can do. If he can, rebound at the same clip he did against Cleveland. Can he do that against Miami as well? And with Abadeo, that's a kind of an under-the-radar player to watch for with Miami. He recorded a triple-double in the closeout game in Milwaukee. 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. So what is my prediction for this series? Well, credit to the Heat. They knocked off the number 1 team in the NBA, certainly in the Eastern Conference, in 5 games. Granted, with a hobbled Giannis, no doubt about that. Giannis did not play well in this series at all. I'm sorry. When you shoot 10 for 23 from the free throw line, that's just inexplicable. Unless you're Shaquille O'Neal. That's about the only one who has that excuse. But here's the thing. I think Miami was playing a little bit over their head, especially on offense. They shot 45% from three-point range. Butler was making threes at a rate that for a 5-game stretch, he's never made this many threes ever since he played for Thibodeau. In February of 18, he made 12 three-pointers in 5 games, and he has never done that since, but he did it in this series against Milwaukee. So I think Miami was playing over their heads a little bit. The Knicks dominated Cleveland, and their shooting was not that good. I mean, their three-point shooting, they only shot 28%, and they still disposed of Cleveland. I think the series will be a grind. I'll give, I can see Butler winning one game for Miami, but to me, it's essentially a one-man team for the most part. The Knicks are deeper. The Knicks are better. I think they win this series in 6 games. I think they win it in Miami and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2000. Well, those are my thoughts. I want to see yours. Put them down there in the comments. Who do you predict to win this series, Knicks or Heat? Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'll see you right back here. Oh, and before I go, I'm also going to be doing a preview video on Celtics versus Sixers. Check that one out, too. I'll see you back here with more content from you know where, the Wicker Chair.